absolutely all of them are completely computer illiterate. They only understand how things work through apps.
As a Gen Z who worked in childcare for about 8 or 9 years, I nannied, I tutored, I worked very closely with kids. I'm glad I'm not the only one finally noticing that not only are Gen Alpha and younger Gen Z genuinely testing worse for reading, a lot of them are actually illiterate, but there's a lot of them that are also computer and kind of internet illiterate almost. I don't want to be clear, it is entirely the parents and the educational system and society's fault here at these failings. Because a lot of parents just think oh, I buy these iPads and I give them to the kids and then they'll teach themselves on it, right? These are magical tablets. They'll go on these reading apps and learn how to read, but we can see that's not happening. This becomes really concerning because things like critical reading and credible sources aren't being taught much in school anymore either when this is happening. A study was done a few years back by Stanford that said most students don't know when news is fake or not because they just don't know reputable sources. I remember when a lot of us older Gen Z and millennials were in school, the internet was kind of a newer thing. So credible sources and citing sources and understanding and navigating the internet was new and big and really important and emphasized. But now that that's going overlooked, that is very worrisome. And I also worry about what the lack of education on computers is going to do going forward. Because it's true, a lot of these kids have never held a computer or maybe just a handful of times in their life, and they operate solely off iPads. You can see public schools are providing iPads now mostly and not computers for their students. And overall, the rise in PC sales, if you look it up, have gone up, but that includes both tablets and computers, and broken up. The computers have gone down, but tablet sales have gone up. And a lot of the houses I nannied in did not have any computers. They just had iPads for the kids, and maybe their parent had a work laptop, which obviously was never touched by the kids. And I do kind of wonder if this lack of education on the internet is tying directly into the lack of internet safety for these young kids. It kind of reminds me of these computer engineering books for babies, or a lot of the coding classes camps that I would drop the kids off in the summertime, and then I would pick them up and ask them what they did. Because that seemed really impressive, oh my gosh, they're learning how to code in the 2nd grade. But then they would just say they did arts and crafts and stuff that had the basic rough ideas of coding. But that wasn't actually coding. So if no one ever sat them down at a computer and actually properly taught them to code after that, they would never really know how to code. They just glued some arrows for funsies on a piece of paper. Which is a good and age-appropriate place to start, of course. That's kind of like handing a 1st grader a piece of paper and a pencil and being well, now they have the tools to become the next great artists in the world, so they're going to do it. That's not how learning works, and now we're seeing the repercussions of it.